When people picture Madagascar, they think of lemurs and baobabs and dense jungles. But beyond the postcard lies a world few have ever dared to enter, the Makay Massif. A labyrinth of canyons, rivers, and hidden forests, so remote and unexplored, it feels like the Grand Canyon before anyone had ever set foot inside. But reaching it isn't easy. To get here, you pass through savannas where armed bandits hunt travelers, through villages ruled by a violent cattle mafia working hand in hand with one of the most corrupt governments in the world. And once you enter the Makay, you're on your own. We trekked 70 kilometers through rivers waist deep, forests alive with creatures found nowhere else on Earth, and deep canyons that felt like stepping back in time. We filtered river water through charcoal just to drink. We carried live chickens for food, slept under skies so black they swallowed the firelight. But Madagascar doesn't just test you. It shows you life at its rawest. Villagers surviving with nothing but the land, living in houses made of sticks without running water or electricity. Wildlife found nowhere else. Landscapes that defy imagination. The Makay has always carried a secret history. Its very name means rest in Malagasy, a sanctuary where ancient kings once sent their armies to recover, hidden within the intricate maze of stone and forest. And after 70 kilometers of sweat, hunger, and hardship, we too discovered the same rest, deep in the heart of Makay, cradled in its silence and shelter. This is the Red Continent. This was the first time I've ever explored a country in Africa. It's always been on my radar, but I've spent most of the past several years exploring Asia. I started my journey in Bangkok and headed over to Ethiopia. Just a few hours later, we finally hit the skies of Madagascar. Once I started looking out the window, I realized why people call this country the Red Continent. Everything I could see for miles was this dark red color because the soil is so rich in minerals and iron. All right, today is a very special day. I just got to Madagascar. Right now, I'm in a place called Antananarivo. And this is the capital city of Madagascar. I've been wanting to come here my entire life. This is kind of one of those last frontiers on this planet. This island is the fourth largest island in the world. It's extremely remote. Over 90% of the animals here on this island cannot be found anywhere else. I watched the movies when I was a kid. It always stuck out to me. I've lived in Southeast Asia. I've seen a ton of animals. But even though it's an animated film, the kinds of stuff that I saw really piqued my interest of coming here just because I've never seen it. You don't even see this stuff in zoos. These are some really wild animals that can only be found on this island. So this is a dream. I'm really happy to be here. I'm super exhausted, but gonna meet up with my friend Patrick. He's flying in from Maryland, and then we're gonna get at it. So I've only been here for a few hours, but after spending time doing some research and talking to people here, I realized there's a lot of really interesting facts about this place. This island is located off of the coast of southeastern Africa, and you notice something different very, very quickly. These people look a lot different than, say, people in Ethiopia, where I just came from. And when you look into the history, it makes more sense. So 1500 years, only 1500 was when the first people came to settle this island. This is not some ancient African country in terms of habitation. This is a really recently settled country. And the people that settled it are Austronesians, which are people groups from essentially Indonesia that made their way over here on boats 1500 years ago. And as you look at these people, their complexions are slightly different. The language, from what I understand at this point, is an Austronesian language. There's a lot of different customs that makes this a very, very unique place. And I asked our guide, Angeline, what do you think of the safety here? What do you think of the safety on the roads and in the villages? And he said, well, here in Madagascar, safety is kind of a unique thing. And there's definitely going to be risk, but safety is a choice. And what that basically meant is if we wanted to be safe, we didn't have to come and do this trip. We could have gone somewhere super touristy, but we made a choice to come and do this specific trip. The complete opposite of, these influencery, touristy areas. We wanted to get deep into the remote parts of Madagascar where there is crime. So I thought it was funny, the idea of if we want to be safe, we didn't have to come. That's kind of where we're at. So I don't want to make too many speculations. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this goes. But all of this, the reason why we're here is to explore Makay Massif, to find the fossa and explore all of the other species that we can that we'll never see anywhere else. That's what makes this so unique. We spent one cold night in Antananarivo, and the next day headed over to a town called Morondava. This is a small oceanside town on the west coast of Madagascar, and unfortunately, we couldn't fly directly there.
On your left. Last trip. Sorry.
70.
70. On the right.
The flight to Morondava was quick. It was just an hour on a turboprop plane. The geography quickly changed. We were able to see baobab trees growing in the distance, and everything started to turn a deeper shade of red. It was a short and bumpy flight, but we finally made it to Morondava. One thing I noticed about these local airports in Madagascar is there's no x-ray machines. There's no security check. It almost felt like a bus station. This was our first experience of rural Madagascar. Even though this was one of the more developed towns on the island, we started to see how life was for some of the more well-off Malagasy people. All right, so we just made it to Morondava. This is a town on the west coast of Madagascar, and it's our first night we're going to spend out here. The plan for today is just to relax, get things settled, and then head out to Avenue of the Baobabs, which is a pretty popular destination. We're going to get some sunset there, and then tomorrow's the big day. Tomorrow we are headed into the wilderness. It's going to be a pretty long drive. They had us pick out our room, and I took the upstairs room. I guess this is all mine. I'm not sure if I'm sharing this with anyone, but yeah, this is the accommodation for tonight. We're going to return here a couple times once we're done with the trek, and then right before we head out to another really cool location. We haven't even gotten there yet. That's in a week and a half. But yeah, this is home for the time being. Cool little outside area. Perhaps the most iconic destination in Madagascar can be found just 30 minutes north of Morondava. These ancient trees are everywhere across the west coast of Madagascar, but here at the Avenue of the Baobabs lies the most scenic spot to take a photo. It was difficult to take a good photo just because of how this place was swarmed with tourists. We wanted to capture a good sunset, and our guide told us to wait for all the tourists to leave because here in Madagascar, the sun sets twice. About 30 minutes after the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky turned a fiery orange, giving us the best opportunity to take a photo without any tourists in sight. All right, today is going to be the first day of our trek to Makay Massif. Had a nice little rest at this place, packed my single bag, and we are off to the most remote place in Madagascar. So epic. It's going to be about 6 hours of driving, mostly off-road today, and then we're going to hike a couple more hours down to the riverbank where we're going to spend our very first night. It's pretty cold here. It's the middle of winter in Madagascar, and I'm surprised it's getting down to the low 50s, maybe even high 40s at night. We'll see how cold it gets in the canyons by the rivers, but based on what the guide is telling me, it's going to be pretty cold. So anyways, have some surprises in store. I can't wait to actually get on the way with this trek. It's going to be pretty exhausting with some really long days. No cell phone signal, no running water, no more toilets, none of that for the next week. The Makay Massif isn't actually near Morondava. It takes about 8 hours to get from Morondava to the entrance of the Makay Massif. Within 20 minutes, we finally hit the countryside of western Madagascar. We were able to see the savanna and rural villages that lined the way on the way east to a place called Makay. The scenery was epic. You could quickly tell how small we were on this island. Given that this is the fourth largest island in the world, the beginning of our trip really put this into perspective, just how big this island was. After just a few more hours of driving on these rural roads, our guide told our car to stop. He saw something. We were going about 60 kilometers an hour, and as hard as I looked, I couldn't figure out what he saw.
It's a first feeling. Yeah. In the down. Here. Oh man, good spotting.
Wait, where?
He's dead. There. The panther? No.
How did he see this? Where is this? I still don't see this.
Oh, here. 7 feet, 8 feet in front of us.
Oh, that far? Oh, whoa. How did you see that?
I'm telling you, man. Last time we was here, he spotted him like,
Yeah.
you'll get a,
It is spiny.
The problem is,
Oh, over here. We can go through. Dude, that's a... How did you do that? How? I can try. Yeah.
spiky.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. How is it possible to see this?
Dude, how can see? 30 miles an hour.
According to our guide, this was called an Ocelot's chameleon. Madagascar is known for its chameleons, and this is apparently the second largest chameleon on the island. Most chameleons are generally docile, but this one had a strong bite, and its claws dug holes into my hand. Otherwise, this was a really beautiful lizard. I've never seen one this big, this close, and I was excited because later on in this trip, we were actually planning on heading deep into chameleon territory. That would take place a couple weeks from now. First, a little pit stop at the car. Got a little bit of smoke. Kind of figured at a certain point we'll run into a little bit of car issues. All right, he says it's fine, let's go. Smoke's still coming out on one side, but I think we're fine. Good thing we have a mechanic. Everything is fine. About an hour later, we came across a kid selling jujubes. These are small, savory fruits. I've had some dry ones in soup before, but I've never had a fresh one. That's very good. Ah, it's super good. Jujubes, wild jujubes. Super good. One of the biggest things I noticed about Madagascar and the Malagasy people is that they have a special kind of heart. As limited as they are with resources and money and material things, these people are so happy. Of course, we ran into scammers and beggars, but for the majority of the people that we came across, they just seemed content. They were genuinely friendly, and they just wanted to know who we are and what we were doing. We finally reached a town called Makay. This was the last developed town on the way to Makay, and this marked the end of paved roads. In Madagascar, only 10% of the roads are paved with asphalt. The other 90% of roads are some of the most treacherous off-road paths I've ever taken in a car. Since most people in Madagascar don't actually own a motor vehicle, It didn't seem to matter as much. We stocked up on water and it was time to hit these roads. It was at this point that we finally realized why our car broke down earlier. The governor of the front axle actually broke. Our car wasn't four-wheel drive anymore, only the rear tires worked. If we had known this earlier, in all honesty, we probably would have pushed for a different car. And you'll find out why in just a few minutes. The roads here were so bumpy that it actually took us almost 6 hours to travel 30 kilometers. And at certain points, we started talking about how it could have been quicker if we just walked on foot. We were heading into a territory where a majority of the villagers didn't have the ability to actually see some of the other towns. Most of them didn't have running water, electricity, or means of transportation. The area began to be so remote that one of the major forms of currency was actually trading zebu cows. We also started running into car after car broken down on the side of the road. Without a decent 4x4, transportation was impossible. All right, that was a bumpy ride for a few hours, but we ended up in this cool forest. You can start hearing some birds, some leaves are moving. There's definitely life here, but it's time for lunch. We're still not there yet. It's gonna be a little bit more off-roading, but nice to be in some shade. Well, we got some zebu sandwiches for lunch, and then everything after this will be chicken, I think. It was one hell of a ride, but you can hear the chickens and ducks kicking around on top of the car. So we got food, and it's still alive. So Angelina's been walking around, and he picked up some wild jujubes. These look a lot fresher than the ones we had in the car, and these are so good. Picked them off the ground, washed them a little bit. They're just so much better. Now over here, found something that looks like dried lion's mane mushroom. I'm not sure, but I pissed off a bee and he's circling me. But these are good. Being the second poorest country in Africa, naturally Madagascar had an extremely high rate of crime. Most notoriously in the region are road bandits. We reached a point where there was a suspicious roadblock, and our guides actually started getting nervous. It turns out it was an abandoned trailer stuck in the middle of the road, and our drivers started to cut a path for us to weave around them in the bush. We took the opportunity to dig around, and we found some Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
There, I don't know if I can.
Oh, I see it. Oh, dude. I've only ever seen these hissing cockroaches in zoos. They're very unique beetles that make a hissing sound when they're feeling threatened. After about 30 minutes, we finally made our way out, but it didn't take long until we ran into a more serious problem. We became stranded in the middle of nowhere on a sandy riverbed with a car that was now only two-wheel drive. It seemed impossible for us to get our car out and running because the sand was so fine, our wheels would spin. Even when we pushed our car just a few feet, we would get stuck again. It was even more disheartening because every other car that came to this riverbed also got stuck. All right, interesting development. So we just hit a riverbed. We got stuck in some sand. We're trying to fix the tire over here so we can get going again. I can't tell exactly what we're trying to fix there, but as we get stopped, these guys so they're running into the same issue too, except the difference is one pulls out a sniper rifle. So this is we'll see what happens, but every 20 feet we just get stuck in the mud again, or stuck in the sand again. But yeah, wish us luck. To be honest, If local villagers didn't come out to help, we actually would have been stranded all night. Even with this makeshift team of villagers, it still took us hours to push this car across this riverbed. We tried time and time and time again to get this car moving, and eventually as more people arrived, we started making some progress. All right, that was a team effort, but after maybe 1.5 hours, we got it out. They had a problem with the governor. It's not 4-wheel drive. It got knocked down to 2-wheel. So yeah, right now it's still 2-wheel drive, but he's cleared the soft sand, so we're just gonna go catch up with him. The clutch is definitely burning right now, but we're gonna make it to camp today. How are you feeling about this, Patrick?
Well, it could be worse.
It could be
feel
worse.
great about it.
Yeah.
I would hate to do an ad for Subaru right now, but I would
Yeah.
rather be in my WRX.
I don't think he stopped. The wheels are spinning.
Oh!
Don't stop, don't stop.
Keep going.
Momentum. One important thing to note is that this part of rural Madagascar is run by an ultraviolet mafia called the Malasso. This was their land. This was their territory. Their main practice was stealing zebu cows. They would raid local villages, steal all the zebus, and then sell them off to the local government. The local government would in turn mark the price up by over 20 times and either sell it back to farmers or ship them overseas. And whenever they're not partaking in the illegal zebu trade, they would be controlling tourism in and out of this region of the island. This isn't some upscale, rich mafia controlling large amounts of money. These are local villagers. They live in villages like this. In this village, we picked up another local guide that was going to accompany us on our trek. Since this mafia controls tourism in and out of this area, you can use your imagination and see who these people were that were coming with us. This entire time, we've been carrying live chickens and ducks for food. You can't bring frozen food on a trek like this. When we finally arrived at this destination, some of our chickens had died, probably from heat stroke or stress. And in just a couple hours, this would be our dinner. We got duck, chicken. All right, so getting that car out of the sand took a lot longer than we thought. We got it out a few times and then it just kept getting stuck. So probably took, 2+ hours just to get it across the riverbed. So it was definitely a challenge, definitely tiring. The original plan was to go another 30 minutes from where we are right now and then hike 2 hours to get to our first campsite. Unfortunately, as you can see, the sun's already set. So in the next 45 minutes, it's going to be dark. Most of the guys here don't have headlamps. The plan was to never, trek at night. So we made a decision. We're going to go hike down to a riverbed down here and then get an early night, wake up tomorrow. The thing is, tomorrow's plan was to have a 7-hour hike to start getting into the actual massif. We're not there yet. So now that we're going to add on these extra 2 hours, it's going to turn into a nice 9-hour day tomorrow. So we're going to wake up at 6, hike for probably 5.5 hours, eat lunch, and then finish off maybe 3 to 4 hours at the very end, and then settle down. And I can appreciate that. I think pushing this car out of the ravine today was very tiring, and getting a little rest, making it tomorrow, that's gonna be a good plan. But today was a trip. Seeing that guy come out of the car with what initially looked like a sniper rifle, but when I looked at it closer, it was a air rifle, still lethal, still can kill you. Definitely a really crazy experience, but here we go, going down to riverbed, probably gonna eat some chicken. One of them died, we might eat that, and then go herp a little bit and then get a early night. Even though we weren't at Makay yet, this place was so beautiful. The sunset painted the sky orange, and an hour later, the moonrise lit up the sky once again. The locals prepared our chickens for us. It tasted amazing after such a long day of just getting to this spot, and we settled in for the night. The next day we woke up energized and excited for our trek into Makay. The sunrise was incredible, and I was able to send my drone up and see just how remote our campsite was. Miles and miles and miles away, we were able to see the massif. It was so surreal seeing how much land we had to cover, and we would be trekking through rivers and streams snaking their way up towards the entrance to the canyons. Alright, night one is done. We are going to be heading to the spot that we were supposed to be last night. About 2.5 hours just to get there. Really cool sunrise. We had some of the locals eat dinner and hang out, and then the kids came out in the morning to also hang out. Had some chickens, zebu for dinner. It was actually a very good night, but we got a very long day ahead of us. Forest is kind of starting. A couple hours later, we've made it pretty close to where we were supposed to camp last night. Honestly, not too bad. Tiny bit of elevation, but you get to see all the different parts of this savanna plateau. And as we head down, it's starting to look like a little oasis. So nice, like these palm trees over here. Little oasis out of nowhere.
How is it spelled? J-U-J-U?
Juju.
Like just J-U-J-U?
Oh. This is so good. They're all like, this one's a fresh, not dude, I'm gonna eat these. Dude, I'm gonna keep eating this. I'm a little hungry. Yeah. The flavor is very sweet, very good, but it has a savory. Savory. Yeah, fresh. Even though the zebu cow is not an endemic species that has lived here for millennia, as it was brought in from the Indian subcontinent for food, work, and transportation, we ran into some feral zebu that seemed to be thriving, living on the natural resources in the area. Hours later, we had still not reached the Massif, but we ran into some local villagers, and we found one harvesting termites to feed her chickens. This whole time I was wondering, what do they feed their chickens? There's no corn, there's no wheat, and the only other grains that they grow are rice for their own consumption. It turns out their livestock eat insects for survival. Collecting termite?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Just dig some up. They don't go anywhere. That's really cool. We ran into some villagers really deep into our trail today. Zebu farmers. Cool cows with little fatty hump on top. Really, really tasty. After about 6 hours of trekking, we settled in to eat with some villagers by a riverbank. The geography started to change. The ground started to turn a darker shade of red. Gallery forests lined each of the rivers, and we could start to hear some animals in the bush. We could start to see the Massif in the near distance, and the path became more clear. We still had a long ways to trek, and would not reach our next campsite until nightfall. But seeing how we were out of the savannah was motivating. There was finally life around us. Alright, we made it to our lunch spot. Chopping some wood. Have 2 chickens and a duck with us. And now we're completely out of water, so we're going to be getting some river water, using some carbon filters to clean the water, and then we're going to be rehydrating, eating some chicken for lunch, and then heading on our way. So we are probably 4 hours left on our hike. We've done, based on what the map says, at minimum 14 kilometers. But with how the river is snaking and we're constantly crossing it, going up hills, it could be a lot more. But yeah, it's been a pretty cool day. The weather is really good, but we've been out of water for the past 2 hours, so it's time to rehydrate, eat, and we're on our way. We got some visitors from the local town. Lots of visitors. Everywhere we go, locals come out of the town and then come to eat with us. But our chicken is almost ready. And then heading right over there, honestly maybe like 5-6 kilometers, and then we're going to be at our final camp. We are moving quite quickly. When you do a trek like this in Madagascar, you'll notice that every time you stop for lunch or pass through a village, the locals will come out to eat with you. At first, I thought it was just because of an act of kindness. However, after talking to some of these locals, I realized that in order for us to get permission to pass through these villages, they needed something from us. They didn't need money, but they wanted our guys to cook for them. This would happen many, many times on this trip. All right, that was kind of fun. Got the drone up in the air. The kids loved it. They love seeing themselves on the drone. And then I talked to our guide Angeline about, if these kids have seen the internet before, or seen drones before, or even seen the town that we off-roaded from, and he said maybe not. So definitely a treat showing them this kind of stuff. But where we're at right now, we're about to enter some really neat gallery forests at the base of Makay. And apparently we'll be seeing some different types of lemurs and maybe some chameleons, boas, but we're starting to get into a little bit more lush forest. I'm looking forward to it. Hello. All right, let's do it. So as we're walking through this forest, right up ahead, there's a herd of wild zebu. They came running right on our trail, looked at us, and I think they tried to scare it off a little bit, but they are apparently aggressive. And yeah, there were some bulls with some nice horns in the mix right on our trail. And they're kind of hiding right now, but they are still nearby. But that was cool. I didn't know they had a wild zebu. That's pretty awesome. We gotta ID these later. Some kind of beetle grub, but massive beetles. This tree is pretty crazy. It's like there's a trunk here and a trunk here, and then they meet up at the top all the way up there.
Yeah, that's what they do. They create a support system for each other because they live in places that get so much erosion that they can't hold themselves up. So they grow to each other. They lock roots and they create more of a family.
Yeah, that's wild. And this is all one organism or now.
Mm-hmm.
We found these palm fruits, and I took one down, and it's rock hard. That we had to use an axe to chip off the skin. But if you use your teeth to kind of scrape a little bit of that wood off, it actually tastes like sweet rye corn muffin. I don't know, it's actually really good. The wood itself of this fruit is sweet. That's unique. As we were heading up the trail, about an hour to go, ran into this. That is scat from a fossa, one of the main target species out here. There's only 2,500 of them left in the wild, at least that we can estimate. So there's one on this trail, either heading to or from pretty much the place that we're headed. So that's a really good sign. It's the largest predator on this island. Essentially, it looks like half dog, half cat. So I would be stoked if we can find this. We continued to cross river after river, and we finally ran into the one thing that makes Madagascar so famous. This is a Civica lemur. Seeing one in the wild was such a great experience. This was exciting because the lemur wasn't that far from our final campsite, and our guides told us that in the morning, these Civicas would come really close to our camp, waking us up with howling and screaming. And yes, lemurs do scream. We have arrived at a place called Ankara, which means red rock. And most of Madagascar is red, but these are especially red. On one side you have, I guess it's a butte or a flat top mountain that is catching the sunset. And then on the other side, facing the opposite, is going to catch the sunrise. And it is blood red. But so far today, based on Google Maps, if you draw a straight line, we've easily done 21 kilometers in a straight line. But since we've been weaving back and forth, crossing the river, making right turns, going through villages, you know, I haven't plotted the points in my map yet to actually draw out the path. It's possible we did, 24 or 25 kilometers today. Tomorrow is going to be very interesting. So we have an 18-kilometer tour through a big chunk of the canyons out here, 18 kilometers. And that part of that's going to involve climbing, I believe, hands and knees through cave systems. And there's going to be a slot canyon that we run into. And one of the guys is like, you might not be able to fit. So we'll see. I'll give it my best, but chances are, if he says I can't fit, I probably can't. Is that a sign? Lose some weight, or maybe I've already lost some from this trek, who knows. But that's what tomorrow looks like. And this is really, really surreal. Really surreal. In Malagasy, Ankanarema means red rock. When they first told me this, I was wondering, well, aren't all the rocks red? And the answer is yes. But this rock marked the beginning of Makay Massif. All the structures and rocks in Makay Massif are a deep iron red. But in the north of Makay, Ankanarema is going to be the first rock you run into. These rocks are absolutely stunning. These visuals don't even capture what you could see in person. This place was incredible. We just got Madagascar cat snake. They have a lot of cat snakes here. We'll figure out the exact species in a bit. But this guy is now really chilled out. Super, super cool checkered pattern. Nocturnal. Got cat eyes if this will focus. Really nice snake. I was thinking it would be like a cat snake from Southeast Asia, but to be honest, the only similarity is the eye. It's a pretty active snake. It's finally chilled out. Semi-venomous, but hasn't shown any signs of wanting to bite. Just like our guide told us, in the morning, the Sifika lemurs came in to wake us up. We found a family of maybe 7 or 8 Sifika lemurs lounging in the trees and a lot more active than the lemurs we found at night. At this point of the trek, we started to run into a lot more wildlife. These Malagasy cat-eyed snakes are beautiful nighttime hunters. They're comfortable with the foliage that was on the ground as well as bodies of water where they can eat amphibians and other snakes. And as we continued onwards, we could hear more lemurs, birds, and reptiles in the distance. So we're headed an 18-kilometer loop, and close to the beginning of that loop, we are going through a cave system. So it's going to be about 250 meters. We're going to be crawling through this, and then when we get to the end of this cave system, we're going to be going through a slot canyon. We're going to try our best, but this is going to be a very, very tight canyon. We're going to have to crush down our bags to go through this gap. But what's on the other side is going to make it worth it. It's going to be a challenge. But hopefully I've burnt enough calories during this whole thing that I can fit through it. But it's an adventure and it's only day 2. He was saying I need to put all my stuff in a waterproof bag, and then when we're in the cave, I'm gonna throw it in front of me and then crawl after it and then just keep pushing forward, crawl after it, push forward, and we're gonna do this for about 100 feet. When we get to the slot canyon, that's gonna be a different story, but this is, he was emphasizing make sure everything you have is waterproof. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this. The goal for today was to enter a cave system as part of an 18-kilometer hike. To be honest, I was quite intimidated. I personally love caves. There's a lot of wildlife that lives in the pitch black habitat in these caves. I found cave racers in Thailand. I've found a variety of blind fish, amphibians, and bats. The process of getting to this cave wasn't all that difficult. There was some light scrambling through holes and over rocks. And as we entered the slot canyon, I started to notice a lot more wildlife, a lot more small habitats for animals and plants to live, and the air was much colder than it was on the trail. I've been in many slot canyons before, but nothing like this. Throughout the entire trail was a very small river. It was very humid and extremely picturesque. As we got closer to the mouth of this cave, the walls of this canyon started turning a brighter green. There were primitive ferns growing out of the rocks, there were frogs hopping around, and there were insects everywhere. The origin of the water in the rivers we were trekking through came from this network of cave systems and reservoirs within the massive walls itself. When we finally got to the entrance of the cave, I was confused. It looked like there were multiple entrances to the inside of the massif, and our guide pointed at one of the smallest holes I've seen all day, and he said, "This is it." We needed to pack all of our belongings into contractor bags to make sure that nothing got wet. Our guide told us that we would actually be crawling on our hands and knees through underground water systems just to get to the tightest point of this cave, the point where they weren't sure I was going to fit. This was the first time I sent up the drone since we were inside the massif, and it became immediately clear just how small we were in the great expanse of this massif, over 120 kilometers deep. We were alone. It felt like we were ants in the rocks. You could barely see us, even when I flew the drone directly overhead. It was finally time to enter the cave.
So they had lights in Cambodia, because now we go first crawling.
Okay,
Crawling first.
So I should put my stuff in
The
the
stuff in the back, yeah. Your bag,
Now.
yeah.
Okay. We had a very light lunch just to make sure that we could fit through this cave, and I packed all my belongings, my cameras, everything except for my action cam, and began to crawl. This is what happened.
Are you gonna make it?
Yeah. In we go. Alright, this is crawling. Alright, let's do this. A little bit of a break. All right, back down.
Check it out.
Yeah?
You have your camera?
Yeah, what's up?
A little bat right here.
Seriously?
Good.
Yeah. Bet.
Yeah. It's just the river is pushing the bag back.
I was gonna say we probably should come up with a method where we hang it to the bags or something.
Even though we weren't there yet, it was difficult because every time I would push my bag forward, the current of the water was so strong it would just keep coming back to me. It took about 45 minutes for us to reach the thinnest point of the cave. If I was alone, I probably wouldn't have done this. It looked so thin, it looked impossible to pass. But one of the locals was able to fit, and that gave me some hope. As doubtful as I was, I wanted to get this over with So I hopped in to give it a shot.
This is okay, that's the last one, this he said.
Okay, cool.
And Manish,
Cool.
We're crossing up or crossing down?
We were crossing back down.
Yeah, give me your. Can you grab? Go in the leaf because for you is no problem because you can fit.
I mean, it's kind of a problem.
That's what I told you. Can you fit it?
Ja, mas dan zo moet ook het. Dat ter kon je dus geti. Nou wordt zelf
down
dus
here?
dat ik bekam maar dus
Yeah, down here.
Not really. I was starting to
No, chat met Chaffany.
Dude, impossible.
Attention, je de politie op pad.
So be careful, don't force. Don't force. Slowly, try, and then if you can't,
If I can't, I can't.
I don't think you're gonna make
There's a
it
step.
down there.
There's a step here.
Okay. That didn't seem like the narrow spot. The narrow spot seems more like where he is.
I know. If I can't, I can't.
Okay.
This is the determining spot.
So be careful, don't stop in.
And it gets wider after this?
Laat ik naar jou toe dan.
I've got him on
Kom maar naar de kamp, ja.
Is that tighter than this?
It looks like it.
What do you say?
It's high, yeah.
Sorry?
Until the
So
people.
doesn't look his size because you know if out here there is wide.
So this is the tightest
This
part.
is the tires. Yeah.
I don't know, man, but you can always come back before you get stuck.
I mean, if I can get past here, I can come back.
Okay.
So,
Are you come back?
no. I'm saying, like, if I get stuck here, I can come back.
Rafa, right there, Rafa.
And it's wider
Ja,
there?
toe maar naar de kamp. Eu vou mandar aqui, eu vou chamar te ter, eu te mandar. Ja, maar naar de kamp. Ja, maar naar de kamp, ja. FC tu manan de go chars. Sabe que? Sabe? Sabe.
Yeah, now you don't so for safety problem.
Mis bloqueio, mano. Mis bloqueio mesmo, né? Deu hora todo.
Tá faye, e tu manan e vou botar com lá aqui.
How was it? No.
He can't talk, he's controlling his breath.
It goes real tight right there.
Yeah, I noticed it gets tighter right where you're about to go.
I don't actually think I can make it through this part. There, I cannot. I actually can't inch.
Can't. Chaffany.
I can't actually get another inch in there. And there's a spot that looks... Okay, we're back to a really difficult part again. Oh, okay.
A ver, aqui tá.
Yeah, you can get. Okay.
I can squeeze my stomach, but I can't get my ribs to squeeze.
A ver, aqui tá.
A Brian there.
Yeah. There's a step here, it's okay. It gets real skinny in there.
I know, that's why I said I'm not gonna make the next one.
There's one more, there's a point that I don't see. Best attempt, but that was the absolute limit. I was moving my shirt to try and get a little bit of space. I watched some Instagram videos,
You can kind of pull the skin.
Yeah, I was pulling skin. That was.
Yeah, not worth it, man. Out here, there's no help.
And this guy's so thin, he can just go sideways. Look at that.
I know.
But like I said, like if I get to the point where I have to exhale to get through, that's it.
1 second, Denton. Thank you.
So we made it into the cave system. I went decent distance until I hit something where I legitimately could not get through. I was pulling my stomach fat little by little, pulling my shirt just to sneak through, and it did not work at a certain point, but I've never pushed myself to the point where I couldn't pass a cave. So that's a first, good achievement. But we're gonna head out in the other direction, look for chameleon snakes, and then make our way to a sunset point in a couple hours. But that was cool. Risky, but cool. The cool things I like about caves and systems like this is there's a microclimate down here. There's actually a couple microclimates. There's one stream that's really cold, one stream that's really warm, and then there's little spots throughout these slot canyons where the little bit of light trickles in and you just see life. You see moss and ferns and frogs and little bats, all just in these tiny habitats where every 20 feet there's a different habitat, different living thing in each spot. Possibly a generation of animals. Every year, every rainy season, these canyons fill up. This is for most of the year impossible to reach by foot. You can see in some spots where the flooding knocks trees down and fills these gaps. So all of this is submerged. And every year, these habitats are replenished. Outside, I found outside in one of the little lagoons, I found a river eel. And at the base of a tree, maybe 40 feet from the water, there was a little tiny tilapia in this puddle. I've never seen anything like that. I wasn't upset that I couldn't make it through the cave. I was mentally prepared to try my best, but I knew if the guide was telling me that I couldn't fit, then there was a chance I probably wouldn't. We made our way back to our camp, hung our belongings out to dry, and unfortunately, my drone controller was waterlogged. There was a few inches of water that made it into my bag, and fortunately, none of my other belongings were affected. We've probably trekked around 35 kilometers at this point, and the Massif was absolutely stunning. We were deep inside the canyon. The plan for us was to hike to the top of the Massif for sunset, and I was excited because I couldn't imagine this looking any better than it did right at this moment. After one of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen, we settled in for the night. What was so surreal was there was no more light pollution. The air was perfectly clear. With my own naked eyes, I could make out the Milky Way, and I was stoked to actually have the opportunity to capture this on camera. The next morning, we began probably the most challenging hike of the entire trip. The goal was to climb to the top of the massif and trek for about 4 hours before ultimately climbing down into a slot canyon. It wasn't going to be an ordinary slot canyon. This was going to be about 10 kilometers of trekking through water that our guide said potentially had water up to our chest. 10 kilometers didn't sound like much, but once we were in it, it felt like eternity. At this point of the trip, we were going to leave behind the lush gallery forests surrounding these wide rivers that head deep into the depths of Makay. So today's a nice day. We climbed up probably 600 foot little mini mountain, and we're actually walking on, I don't know if you want to call it summit, but this entire thing is a massif, and we're essentially walking on top of all of it. It's pretty nice, it's cool, and the plan for today is we're going to go about 15 kilometers. Nothing too crazy. It's going to be 4 hours on top of the massif and then 4 hours down on sandy riverbeds. And then the plan for tonight is we're going to settle down at a camp and then go hunt some eels. We're running low on food. We only have 2 ducks left and a bunch of rice. So we're going to need to get some more protein and hopefully spear some eels. 2 nights ago, I actually saw one in one of the ponds. It was probably 2-foot eel, but we're gonna need several of those to feed all of us. But yeah, looks to be an exciting rest of the day. We found some snake tracks on the way out here. We found 2 snake tracks. We were able to follow one, and it looks like it crossed a riverbed and went into a tree. So weren't able to do anything with that. Also picking up some kind of tropical illness right now. Woke up with one of the worst sore throats I've ever had. And it's kind of gone away now. I don't really feel much else, but usually when that happens, it's either dehydration, which I'm not dehydrated, or it is some kind of disease. We'll see. But I got my malaria medication. Pretty sure sore throats do not happen when you have malaria. But then again, I have no signal to Google. We'll see what happens. The first 4 hours flew by, the weather was great, sun wasn't too hot, and once we hit the entrance to the slot canyon, I realized this was going to be challenging. There was no trail at this point. It truly felt like we were pioneering our own path through a hidden canyon that few people from outside of these villages have probably ever seen.
Get that thing with your left hand.
Nice. Alright, so we made it down the massif. That was a beautiful trek. 4 or 5 hours trek. And then now we're headed down to the riverbed to eat lunch. Pretty easy hike today. I just gotta make sure I can continue this hike. But we did it. What's really cool about this massif is when we were getting down, I was looking, trying to figure out like where we could cross. And I couldn't see an exit. Well, it turns out there's always an exit here in Makay. Might not be easy to get through, but there's always a way out. But after this, only 4 hours, and then we get to chill. I don't even think it's noon yet. And then we're gonna hunt for snakes and chameleons tonight. And then get some more astrophotography. Last night, the Milky Way was super clear. I was getting my camera out, and then the moon rose. And that was that. There's a little bit too much light, but I think I still got some good photos. But tonight I'm hoping for clear sky again, but wait for the moon. But hopefully not wait for the moon to rise. That's the goal. It's really my first time doing astrophotography with this camera, so I'm trying to get, you know, that one good shot, because here the skies are so clear. There should be a meteor shower tonight. I'm gonna see if I can capture some of those. But yeah, there's still a lot on the list, even though we have a day and a half left here. A lot on the list. The funny thing is we thought we were going to run out of food, which is entirely a possibility with how many of us. We got villagers, we got 2 guides, you have me and Patrick, all big eaters. And we were quickly running out of birds. So a couple of the guys actually went all the way back to the village and brought out 2 more ducks. All the way back to the village. That's a multi-night trip that they just made just to get us some ducks. But everything is good. We have tonight, and then tomorrow we're gonna hike all the way to our camp, technically all the way to our car, but you don't wanna off-road at night. So we're actually gonna go camp by the 4x4, the SUV, whatever you call it. We're gonna go camp by that, so we don't off-road at night, and then head all the way back to Morondava. I am excited to find some cheesecake, Sprite. I'm gonna drink a 2-liter of Sprite as soon as I see one. It's gonna be glorious. I got it. Ooh, that's cold. So, we got about 3 hours through this river. Or, I guess, stagnant pool of water. Not really a river. Who knows what's in it, but it feels nice. Pretty intense, because you got these giant boulders in the water, but we're doing it. All right, just made it. That was pretty cool, but this is not going to be the last pool, and I don't even think this is the deepest pool. Thing is, I'm pretty thirsty, so we're going to have to pump some of this water. Slightly concerning since nothing's really running, but I am going to have to drink it at some point. It is what it is. You can't possibly bring all the water you need for a trip like this. This canyon is quite interesting because at the very beginning there was not much running water. It was just standing water. Now the water is starting to move with these little, like here's a mini waterfall. Down here. And the cool thing is, earlier the water was pretty cold. And as I'm walking through this and as the water's picking up, I'm noticing the volume of water that's moving through is significantly faster. Also, every, maybe 20 feet, I feel really warm water coming out of the ground. So I think there's just a number of springs running through the sandstone, and some is coming from really deep, possibly hot springs inside of this, and a lot of it comes from rainwater. A lot of it comes from in the rock. There were some parts where it was actually raining water from the top of the canyon. Now, this is dry season. There probably hasn't been rain for that long. So just being in a place like this and seeing water that potentially could come from so many different sources, all turning into this little stream that eventually at the very end of this is going to turn into a fast-moving river where we're going to be hunting eels tonight. It's quite cool just seeing the source of water, the source of rivers. I've always wondered, we have mountains, spring water. What exactly does that look like? And how does water start from high elevation and run to low elevation? It's even in places where there's not much rain. It's always fascinated me. And this is a spot where I feel like I kind of get to see that in person. It's just another one of the wonders of this island.
You were saying it was anything as moving around as the animal.
All right, so we finally made it to this river. It's moving a lot quicker now, as you can see. It's also a lot deeper. In this river, there's little, I don't know, what do you call it, divots and sandbars. So every other step, you get one step up where you're at ankle level, and the next step is close to waist level. This, if it wasn't already like a stair climber, this is it. Thankfully, we don't actually have to do 4 hours of this. We just have 5 or 10 minutes to the camp. We're starting to see some beaches. I think this is going to finally be it. My feet can dry out. Oh man. But is this worth it? Was this worth it? I think it's worth it. Just the sheer amount of effort it takes to get to a place like this is what makes it so special. And today, I didn't catch it on film just because of how quickly it all happened, but I saw these two birds playing around, and then one of them just jumps in the water, spreads its wings out, and starts swimming. And the current brought it straight to me, and it wasn't scared or anything, and it let me pick it up. So I caught a bird that swam to me, and never seen the bird before, probably a whole new species to what I'm used to, and yeah. This is something. This is something. So we just got finished. Ended up with a mimophis snake. We're gonna figure out the exact species of this, but this is a really nice snake. Same genus as the last snake that we got. Blends in beautifully with the sandstone. Really nice snake. We finally set up camp and laid out watching another beautiful Madagascar sunset. After a short dinner, watching the Milky Way overhead, it was time to start hunting for eels. I put on a waterproof headlamp and head out with the locals. Even though this river was raging, we walked up current, looking for little lagoons and tide pools where these eels hung out. A few of the villagers that accompanied us were really hungry. We didn't have enough food for everyone the entire time. I walked to the villager, slowly looking for any sign of fish or eels. And after an hour of searching, we still did not see any sign of life. This was until one of our guides came across an extremely rare, critically endangered river turtle.
It is a rare, extremely killed Madagascar Massif. It's one is in a red list. We have a three species. That is not to. Is a cosmopolitan species.
That's awesome.
Wow.
By the time we started looking for eels again, one of the locals had actually found one and killed it with an axe. We didn't have any spears, we didn't have anything to kill these eels. So seeing a local use an axe to subdue an eel was something I've never seen before. Our final full day in the Massif consisted almost entirely of one of the most tiring treks I've ever done. The route was easy, but it took around 8 hours to trek on top of the Massif in weather that pushed 30 degrees Celsius.
Next time.
We came across some of the caves that the original settlers of Madagascar lived in. Few people outside of locals have ever seen these caves in person, and I noticed that the roof of these caves were black with soot. They kept themselves warm, lighting fires inside the caves, somehow surviving carbon monoxide. I don't know how they did it, but these are the people that survived this treacherous terrain to establish the Malagasy people over 1,500 years ago. We came across more wildlife. We found some endemic grasshoppers as well as some more Mimophis snakes. These snakes were very unique because when you release it, it doesn't run away. These snakes actually freeze, pretending to be a stick, blending in almost perfectly with the environment. So we've been walking out of the Massif for some hours now. The sun is directly above us and we left around 9, so maybe 4 hours. But we're fully out of the Massif now. We're in desert. We went from a nice cold night at around 50 degrees to now it's 94 degrees. Barely any humidity. But we're at the foothills of the Massif now. Hopefully out of sand. I'm happy to not touch sand again. But 2 more hours. You can see the village in the distance, maybe 5 miles out. Can't wait for some cold juice or something. It is the first time I've sweat in a while. That afternoon, we hung out with some more locals. Another group of villagers came out with their elders, and we prepared a feast for them while we waited for the sun to set. This was a fun experience because we were able to watch them interact with each other, eating local food and playing Afrobeats. Everywhere these locals went, one of them would be carrying a boombox powered by a solar panel, playing local Afrobeats. We didn't actually know the genre of this music, but it all sounded the same and it had the same repetitive beat. It was music unique to the Malagasy people, and even though we didn't know the words, it was entertaining enough. Back at camp, we hung out with some more villagers, enjoyed some sheep for dinner, as the locals had a final feast with local sugarcane rum. We ran into some more wildlife, with sand scorpions crawling right up to our tent. These scorpions are some of the most dangerous scorpions in Africa, and getting stung by one of them would mean an immediate end to our trip. This entire experience is something I will never forget for the rest of my life. We flew around the world to trek through some of the most dangerous territory I've ever seen. Not just because of how dangerous our trek was, not just because of how risky drinking river water could be for our bodies, and not just because we spent so much time with one of the most dangerous mafias in Madagascar, but because of how remote this entire thing was. We were so deep into no man's land. We were at a section of the Massif that few tourists will ever see. This territory was something frequented by locals for thousands of years, and we felt truly privileged to have the opportunity to see it for ourselves. Madagascar is truly an inspiring place. I've never been to Africa, and I've never been to an island like this. What kept us going, what made us so excited, was this was just the beginning of our trip. We were going to be in Madagascar for almost 4 weeks. There's so much more to explore, so much more to see, so much more wildlife, snakes, lemurs, and amphibians. And in my next video, I will show you the rest of this adventure. This was truly something special.